all of you Ohio Valley Weather Watch friends. This is senior forecaster Mike Estwick along with meteorologist Austin Stance, and we are taking a look at the latest forecast discussion for our severe weather event that is on tap for us tomorrow. We've got a few updates here. We're going to talk a little bit about timing, threat modes, safety concerns, that type of all that good stuff for you here. Okay, so Austin, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate you taking time out of your evening to help us out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, there's a lot to talk about as far as going into tomorrow. Severe weather threat on tap, even comfortable at this point using the word outbreak for tomorrow. We'll see multiple states being affected, all hazards on the table for that. So, as Mike said, we're going to have a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to break down in detail on what you can expect for timing, locations impacted, and also what lies ahead as well, because we will touch on just a little bit that this is not the only severe threat that we'll be expecting as we head into next week. There's another one as we head into the middle of next week as well, but we'll touch on that at the end, Mike.
Yep, sounds good. Spoiler alert for all of our followers there. Wednesday ish. Again, we'll talk about that later. So here's our severe threat. Here's what we have. I don't want to say 100% locked in. I don't think that that would be responsible to use that, but we are feeling confidence is going up as the hours tick by here. So the Storm Prediction Center still has us in an enhanced risk. They have been discussing in the Storm Prediction Center, the NWS chats and so forth. It would not shock me in the least to see a moderate come out tonight for tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. But right now we are in an enhanced risk. Sunday with a break. So we're still looking at kind of a twin barreled event here, an earlier event potentially. And then again, PM into Monday is going to be that's going to be the main show right there. So the undercard is going to be kind of the Sunday morning ish time frame. And then we're thinking afternoon, evening into pre dawn Monday morning is when everything is really going to kind of take off there. Heavy rain, damaging wind, strong, violent tornadoes, EF2 or better, all threat modes are on the table. So you definitely want to be aware of that. Now, there is still some uncertainty about timing and the possibility of supercells ahead of a linear system. And Austin and I will kind of delve into that a little bit further because the supercells ahead of the linear system piece, that kind of factors into your tornado threat and your hail threat, that type of thing. So we'll talk about that a little bit more here. Let's go on to the next graphic. So there's the outlook right there for you, okay? The severe weather outlook. And the orange is enhanced, slight risk yellow, marginal, the dark green, and then kind of the light green, that's just general thunderstorms. Now, what we've been talking about behind the scenes here on the page as well is if a moderate is going to come out, and I'm fairly confident that one will come out, just full disclosure. We're thinking that it's going to be something like this in this area here that we're drawing in right now. We're telestrating for you. So might be off a little bit. We'll have to see what the Storm Prediction Center thinks about it. But it just, and Austin, I'm sure you back this up and you can maybe amplify on this a little bit. All the dynamic support and everything really seems to be lining up right now with all the various data and so forth we've been looking at, and the solutions that would make sense for a moderate to be placed approximately where we've drawn it in at here.
Yeah, that could be shifted slightly southeast, maybe a little bit further north. Again, as Mike said, that can move a little bit, just depending on the timing as the arrival comes in. It's also going to depend on as well if we see a break in some cloud cover, right? Because there's going to be times tomorrow, and again, we'll dive into this here in just a few minutes. But there's going to be times tomorrow where you're going to see some rainfall, some cloud cover. And I will tell you, between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. if you step outside and you see sunshine, that is not a good sign. That does not mean things are over. That does not mean that the rest of the day is in the clear. That is actually a worse sign that we'll get some daytime heating. Some of that solar heat will then be affecting the surface heating there, allowing for all those ingredients to really blow up and give these storms the strength to bust through what we call a cap there. And so that's kind of really the uncertainty. That is the main reason why you have not seen an upgrade to a moderate just yet, is because there is a little bit of uncertainty as far as those supercells. But as I mentioned, if you see the sun shine out between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., from that point on, I would say you're likely going to see some supercell development between 3 and 4 o'clock as they make their way into the area. And that would be out ahead of the cold front that will be bringing in that line of storms, Mike.
Yep. So again, if you see sun mid-morning into just after lunchtime, early afternoon tomorrow, as crazy as this sounds, a cloudy day tomorrow would be a beautiful thing because that will absolutely mitigate the threat tomorrow. Let's take a look here at the severe chances, go a little bit more into depth here. And you guys saw this on the live last night as well, but we want to hit it again. So you see 30 to 44%. So we're getting close to that 50-50 shot of severe weather within 25 miles of any given point inside that red area. And you see that black hatching there. That is a 1 in 10 or better chance of significant severe weather. And what are we talking about when we say significant severe weather? We're talking about golf ball size hail or larger. So that's 2-inch hail. We're talking about obviously tornadoes and potentially strong ones, the EF2 or better ones, the ones that'll really mess things up for you. And we're also talking about those 70 to 75 mile per hour wind gusts. And think of it this way: when you say 70 to 75 miles per hour, it's like, okay, car going down the freeway. But for winds, what you're thinking of is a high end tropical storm or a category 1 hurricane. That will definitely make you have to go through the neighborhood to try to find your trampoline, your swing set, or your trash can if that stuff is still out when these storms come through. So you definitely want to be paying attention tomorrow here. And so, Austin, let's go ahead and kind of educate folks here a little bit. Now we can talk a little bit about some of these watches and warnings here. So let's talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So a particular dangerous situation, or PDS watch, right? So we heard that actually just the last weekend that we had that severe weather event on March 14th and 15th. So about 2 weekends ago, we saw a PDS tornado watch for our area, a particularly dangerous situation. Now, this gives a lot of certainty that we are going to see strong to significant tornadoes, some long track, EF2 or greater. And also, there is actually a PDS watch for severe thunderstorms as well. That watch would be winds in excess of 75 miles per hour, up to 100 miles per hour as well. So these are long lived storms that would be, cause immense damage and are likely to, have a really cause and effect on life and agriculture, right? So those are things that we make sure that we want to put out there. A particularly dangerous situation means that your life is in danger at that point if we are to see one of those long track tornadoes. And usually during a particularly dangerous situation for a tornado watch, if you get one of those long track tornadoes, it is not uncommon to then see that not actually be a tornado warning, but a tornado emergency, which is again used for a higher end scale tornado, and it, again, is imminent danger that could affect your life. So those are important things to pay attention to. And, I think what's important as well to talk about here is that during these PDS situations, what do we look for in the environment in this factor? So a lot of times you've heard us talk about like CAPE values. You've heard us talk about wind shear. What is that? So CAPE values are convective available potential energy, right? So basically, that tells us how much energy there is in the atmosphere for these storms to tap into. Right now we're seeing anywhere from about 1,500 to 2,000, specifically near the Evansville area. Down towards western Kentucky, I've seen it nearing upwards to around 2,500, and you only need anywhere from about 500 to 1,000 for a severe thunderstorm. And the other factor in here is going to be the wind shear. The wind shear is a little bit further north on most of the models that we've been seeing, which means a wind shear is going to be a change in speed or direction in those winds, especially as it's rising. And so when you get that wind shear, that is changing direction or speed, that can allow for some tilt in some of these thunderstorms that are developing, which then can help cause that rotation for these severe thunderstorms, then becoming tornado warned and potentially producing a tornado. And in this case, with all the ingredients that we have, if we see some discrete supercells there, we could see a PDS watch issued for some potentially long track tornadoes EF2 or greater. Mike?
100% on that. Thank you, Austin. So let's talk about, and let's look at the bottom here. Be prepared. Have a plan and execute it. We can't stress that enough. You don't want to be trying to figure this out when you've got a severe thunderstorm with large damaging hail, damaging winds, or even worse, a tornado bearing down on you. Identify a safe place to go ahead of time, and then just know how to get there, about how long it's going to take if that's not in your home. If you're in a trailer, if you're like in a mobile home or a trailer, you need to find a site-built structure of some type to go. And when we say site-built, something with walls, a foundation, that type of thing, okay? Or even if it's built on a slab. So you want to consider maybe canceling or postponing outdoor activities tomorrow. Multiple ways to receive a warning. Weather radio is the baseline, a tablet or a phone with us, because we'll be streaming and covering this. That can help you out too, but also make sure your wireless emergency alerts are turned on your phone. And then socialize this with people that you know and care about, friends, family, and so forth. Let's take a look here about terminology. And this is a little bit more in depth, piggybacking on what Austin said. Your tornado watch conditions are favorable for tornado development. Okay, so conditions are favorable for tornado development. Be ready to go if a tornado warning comes up. And speaking of a tornado warning, either spotters have seen it, multiple public reports, law enforcement, or National Weather Service meteorologists seeing strong location or rotation rather on radar. And we'll take a look at that. I've got some examples of that here as well. And then tornado emergency. This is the big one. So essentially, that is a sizable, well, I won't say, yeah, we'll stick with sizable. Fairly sizable tornado with a large or decent sized population center lined up for a direct hit. I was talking with some of our staff here before we went on, talking about December 2021, the Mayfield tornado. There was a tornado emergency there because you had a high-end EF4, and I tell you what, I didn't sleep too well after that night, folks. And just because watching that thing go, and it did not waver one bit. It was almost like it had a crosshairs on Mayfield, and it just went through there and did what it did. Okay, so tornado emergency. If you hear a tornado emergency called out for, you have to get to safety. It's a non-negotiable at that point. If you don't go to a tornado safe place with a tornado emergency, you're rolling the dice with your life. And I hate to be that blunt, but I really think that in this day and age, maybe that's what we need to do to try to reach you, because we don't want to be reading about you in the paper or seeing you online, that something happened as a result of these storms. So we'll take a look here at this next slide here. Here's an example of what we could very well be seeing here both tomorrow and later this week. So a tornado watch up here in the top left, and it's not going to have that writing on it right there. I modified that graphic when I broadcast that, because I also do some forecasting for out in the Rockies as well. So, but the counties will be shaded in red as you see here. Okay, so that's a tornado watch. The tornado warning, that is the red polygons there, and I'm sure that a lot of you know that from watching us, or I think 98, 99% of broadcast operations have a red polygon keyed is for their tornado warning. And the tornado emergency or the tornado emergency is going to look like this. This is actually the confirmed tornado polygon. It changes color from red to this purple. And that's how we tell the difference. And you can see the difference where radar indicated, reported, we're not sure something is there yet. Or, yeah, we see the National Weather Service sees sustained rotation. You can kind of see the hook right here in this one, or multiple public reports, law enforcement, they're saying, yeah, 100% this is on the ground. Or if it could even be like on a traffic cam somewhere or something like that. So this is the stuff you may see some of this on the radar tomorrow. So just understand the difference between them and then be ready to go. So Austin, I'll go ahead and throw it back over to you. Let's talk about timing of these storms potentially from the National Weather Service.
Yeah, I think that would be a great place to start for tomorrow. So, taking a look here, just on your left hand side of your screen there, you'll notice that it has the primary hazards, right? Tornadoes, strong, long lived, possible, EF2 or greater, large to very large hail. Again, I would like to reiterate what we saw here in Owensboro not too long ago with this last system that moved through on March 14th and 15th, where we saw some major hail damage done in the late evening hours in Owensboro there. But for timing for this tomorrow, if you remember yesterday, we were talking about those supercells, and then we had a similar graphic up like this, and it set up at the top that this was the main line of thunderstorms. You'll notice what has changed here is arrival time of initial storms. So that last graphic that you saw yesterday was talking about the line that's going to be riding along that cold. Now, this graphic here with the National Weather Service, they've kind of updated this to incorporate what we could be seeing, some of those discrete supercells developing out ahead of this. So, as I mentioned, if you're out tomorrow, it's 10 a.m., 11 o'clock, right around lunchtime, and you're seeing the sun shine out. That is not good news for us, because then during this timing here, this is when we could start seeing some of those discrete supercells start to pop in. So, you'll notice Carbondale, Cape Girardeau, Poplar Bluff there, seeing between 1 and 4 o'clock. That'll start to move into the Illinois area. And then for Marion, Paducah, Mayfield, between right around that 3 and 7 o'clock range. And then between 7 and 11 p.m., that'll start moving into portions of western Kentucky into the southern Indiana area there between 7 and 11 o'clock. Now, again, this is going to be primary timing where everyone is awake. They're getting ready for dinner. It's Sunday, so I know some people are getting to bed a little bit earlier to get ready for their work week next week. So make sure if you're going to bed tomorrow, 8, 9 o'clock, have a way to get warnings if you haven't seen any of those storms move through yet, because this is not a question of if you're going to see severe weather tomorrow. It's just a question of when. Right. And that is because we're going to see this long line riding along this cold front that is going to bring in storms across multiple states: Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Missouri, Kentucky. We have Arkansas, Tennessee, all the way down towards Mississippi. And I've even seen models extending all the way down into portions of West Texas. So this is going to be a very long line of thunderstorms, even if you don't see the initial supercell development, and you will be affected by that line that moves through. And I think what's important to talk about here too, Mike, is that if we don't see initial supercell development, that long line of thunderstorms, the most impactful part is going to be the leading edge of that storm. It'll start to kind of make that bow echo shape, and that's due to all the wind that's pushing behind there, right? It's moving very quickly, and that's typically where you're going to see the most damaging wind gusts, and also some of the most sustained winds for about the first 5 minutes as the storm is moving through, right, Mike?
Yep, it sure can, and that's absolutely right. And I've got good news for you, Austin. I was just taking a look here while you were walking through this with our follower audience here, and the latest run of the high-res rapid refresh model is actually in the process of kind of filling in right now. So, you know what? Let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and see here. Let's go ahead and slide that over here so everyone can take a look at it. So, this is the high res rapid refresh model, one of many that we look at. And before we start diving into this, I need to put a couple of caveats out here. First of all, this is a single model and this is a single solution. Do not take what you are seeing on the screen now to the bank. This will change right up until this event kicks off tomorrow. We're fairly confident that it will look reasonably close to this, but again, this is not gospel. This is not locked in. Do not take this to the bank. We are not that good. Okay, we would be doing some amazing things if we had the power to be able to tell you exactly where all this stuff is. Okay, so I just want to make that crystal clear. Now let's take a look here and at this future cast, and this is going to be at 7 a.m. Oh, let me back up 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can see spotty showers, a couple of rumbles of thunder in the area right here. Okay, you know what? Let me turn off the readout here so you can kind of see the plus right there. So few spotty showers, couple rumbles of thunder out here. So these may even be, this is what we call kind of multi-cell. So you've got a lot of, or I call them popcorn thunderstorms when I'm talking about them on the live streams or in our reporting products in my forecast that I write for you all there, because it's literally like popcorn. You can see a general area where they're going to pop up, but where do they actually form? You don't see them until you detect them on radar. So this is 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So let's advance. That's 3 hours later. That's 10 a.m. And you see, it looks like things are kind of maybe dying down just a little less coverage, widespread of coverage there. That's 10 a.m. That's 1 p.m. Now, let's take a look at this right here, because you see we've got the first of a broken line of storms forming right here. If this solution verifies, if the HER is on the right track here, there's going to be some storms right on the Illinois Indiana border up here, and then a little bit further down around Edwards Wabash County, and then coming across into Gibson Knox County, Indiana, perhaps. And then they curve back a little bit into southern Illinois. That's going to be like Jackson, Williamson, Franklin counties. Okay. So that is 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, 2, 3, 4 p.m. So this line is moving on. It's basically into Indiana now, into basically the southern third of Indiana and the eastern half of Indiana. And then that's going to be at 7 p.m. So, see, this is why the National Weather Service was saying that 7 to 11 p.m. This is what they're seeing. This line is becoming kind of more defined and filling in its gaps as it moves east, and that is as far as it goes right now. And this will keep updating through the while we're still talking. You can see another hour just popped in, so there you can kind of see that right there. So Austin, a definite this linear solution here with maybe a few supercells potentially out in front of the line here, but nonetheless, the bottom line is you need to sit up and pay attention for tomorrow.
Absolutely, yeah. Multiple rounds going to be expected, and especially, if you go back, can we go back to the morning there, right around 7 o'clock in the morning? As Mike was saying, kind of these popcorn showers popping up in there. The radar as well could be detecting the amount of moisture. So some areas might even just stay dry, and it might just be detecting moisture in the air in certain areas. And again, it'll be very scattered. So not everyone's going to see a shower tomorrow morning. But I think from this point, Mike, let's go ahead. If you can turn it over to the average cloud cover, let's go ahead
Yep.
and check that, because that is going to be a major factor, as Mike and I both talked about, that if we see breaks in these clouds, that is not going to be a good thing. So if we start out tomorrow morning, we'll notice that we start seeing, okay, things are pretty cloudy. We're seeing some showers move in, that moisture's building up, kind of that overcast, kind of cloudy skies. That is a good thing. Moving through into the afternoon hours, if you see right there
That's
near
10 a.m. Yep. So
yep.
that's 10 a.m.
So Southern Illinois right there, seeing a little break in there. That wouldn't be a good spot to see a break in the clouds. If you see some sunshine in there, even for an hour or two, that could really give the atmosphere some good time to develop and prime further for some of those supercells. So anywhere that we see breaks in the clouds could be a threat for some supercell development. But right now, it's looking like, again, it's kind of still I would say mostly cloudy, and that would be a good thing as far as just getting us to that line, because the cap issue that we're going to be seeing here is that if that cloud cover stays where it's at, these storms won't have enough energy to or strength to really bust through that cap up there. But as that cold front pushes in, though, that won't matter. Those storms, that line of thunderstorms that's going to form along that line, will have no problem getting through that. And as that cold air sweeps in, that will just kind of destroy that cap there, and we'll start to see those thunderstorms making their way through. So, again, it's not a question of if you're going to see storms tomorrow, but a question of when. Are you going to see that supercell development out a little bit earlier between, well, I'd say 1 and 6 p.m., and then that line of thunderstorms moving in between 7 and 11 p.m. for timing there, and then even further east, seeing that line possibly going into those overnight hours. So central Kentucky, central Tennessee, portions of eastern Ohio, and even into central Ohio could be seeing those strong to severe storms as well, Mike.
For sure. And let's take a look here. So this is at, let's see. So this is 3 o'clock right here. So let me get back over here. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7. So we could pick up a little bit of that sunshine, that late afternoon sunshine right here, and that could potentially be an issue. So that's something that we're going to have to watch out for. Again, there's still a few wild cards here with where the breaks in the clouds are going to be and how long they're going to stick around. Okay, let's take a look here at some of our severe parameters here. So this is one we were talking about, the supercell composite parameter. So this is basically, it kind of gives a score on the likelihood of supercell thunderstorms being in the area. And as you can see, as we get further into the day and into the evening, that all of that instability and the ingredients to support those storms migrates into the tri-state here. So this is 7 a.m., that's 10, that's 1, 4 p.m., 7 p.m. So 7 p.m. appears to be about the best time for that, because as you can see, once the according to the model here, once the line of storms has moved through and it kind of works the atmosphere over and mixes it up and gets everything to a more stable situation, that's kind of what we need, or that's what to expect rather. What we need is to keep clouds around so that way this dynamic support can still stay there, but the storms won't really be able to take advantage of it. And I
Yeah,
know
with
quite a
those
few.
parameters, Mike, I think when we were looking at the cloud cover earlier, it
Mhm.
was one of the biggest areas that we saw a break in the cloud cover was near southeastern Missouri, northeastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, down in that area there. That's where they see the biggest break in cloud cover, and that's where you'll notice some of those parameters really pick up. But that does not mean that we don't see some of that getting pulled further north. As Mike said, we could still see that being pulled into the area, but these models still indicating that there's going to be a chance for some strong tornadoes, even if it is south of our viewing area. We could still see spin ups there as well. So we have to be vigilant as we go into the evening hours. There's been discussions among meteorologists and forecasters as to exactly where we really think this tornado threat is going to set up. And again, that is the uncertainty there is kind of, hey, where are we going to see the option for some of that surface heating, right? Because the shear level is much higher off to the north than it is the south, but the south has a lot higher CAPE values, nearing 3,000 to 3,500 joules per kilogram. So we're definitely still seeing different variations in there. But again, you only need 500 to 1,000 for severe thunderstorms. So if we're here in Evansville and we're seeing anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000, that's plenty. That's all we need to see some of these thunderstorms spin up a tornado or two, without a doubt.
Definitely. And since you were talking about that, Austin, I went ahead and pulled up that the surface-based CAPE, and remember, CAPE Austin told us is the convective available potential energy. So the easiest way to think of that, and those of you who have been longtime followers of the page here of the channel have heard me say the question that Cape answers is how much energy is in the battery for storms to feed on once they get going. So that tells you how big of a battery you're going to have, how much basically juice. Okay, so that's 7 a.m. There's 10, and that is 1 p.m. And you can already see, and for this, I will turn the little readout back on here. So you can see Austin only said we need 1,000, 1,500. Look at this. We're coming up on. I just got a 2,000 right there. Just moving my mouse ever so slightly over, and this is Vanderburgh County right here. This is literally in Vanderburgh County, just north of Evansville. Right now is where the cursor is located. Over 2,000 joules of surface-based CAPE. So that's definitely something to pay attention to here. And then you see, then the values are going to go even higher as the day progresses, right off the surface. So we've got almost 3,000 joules available right on the Kentucky Illinois border. So, judging by the numbers here, Austin, we've got some significant amounts of instability, some pretty volatile air, and this is the type of stuff storms love to nosh on this stuff when they get going.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, the scarier part about this is that we have here in the tri-state are going to have more of that bulk shear than they are off to the south. And so again, that is why there's, some uncertainty. Whereas if we see a bunch of cloud cover, even that line of thunderstorms that moves through, if we don't see much development there, we're still going to see some of that shear where it's going to bring in the opportunity for QLCS, or quasi linear convective system tornadoes. And basically, those develop out on the leading edge of the storm, right? So if we see a tornado on that line, it's going to be out on the leading edge. Typically, those tornadoes do not have too much room to move around because they are connected to that line of storms instead of being in an individual cell, excuse me. And so that in that sense is a good thing, but it becomes a bad thing though if it doesn't have too much room to move around and it's headed directly for a populated area. That is a no good situation there that you want to be a part of. So again, we have most of the shear further up to the north here, which means that even if we don't see some of those supercells develop tornadoes, we could still see a few tornadoes develop along the leading edge of that line of thunderstorms.
That's a great point, Austin. I think that this data right here kind of illustrates your point very well. This is bulk shear, 0 to 6 kilometers. So this is basically the lowest 15,000 feet from the ground up to about 15,000 feet up in the sky. And you can see in the red here, and this is in knots. So we've got coming up, I see some 80s and some 90s around here. So basically, you've got almost in that lowest 15,000 feet, you've got roughly about 100 miles per hour worth of wind shear, not all at one particular level, but basically turning as you go up. So these storms, even in a linear mode, it's going to be a pain anyway because these things will turn. And the example that I use on the live streams with you guys a lot is if you have in a bathtub or a sink full of water, if you take your hand and push it away from you or pull it towards you in that water just a little bit, keep your fingers together, you can see the water spinning, making little eddies when you get your hand out of there. That's essentially what the atmosphere does, except here the ante is upped a little bit because those are the spin ups that Austin and I refer to. So you can get those hiding within a line, and it's also sometimes trickier to detect them in a line too because they'll come up, they'll hang out for maybe 5, 10 minutes. We think they could hang out longer based on the available dynamics for tomorrow, and then they go away. But basically, the bottom line is we could show you this stuff all night, right? But the bottom line, it's very simple. Have a plan, know where you're going to go, know what you're going to do, have everything you need ready to go, charge up your electronics, and have multiple ways to get a warning, whether it's a severe thunderstorm warning or whether it's a tornado warning. And please do not count an outdoor siren as a valid warning source. That is not a valid warning source. As a matter of fact, and the name of the county escapes me right now, but I know for a fact that there are some tornado sirens in one of our counties that are out due to storm damage. So even if emergency management turns them on, you're not going to hear anything, Austin.
Yeah, that was in Henderson, Kentucky. And again, I do not have the county name in front of me here, but I do know that they are doing some repairs on that. They are trying to get it fixed as quickly as possible, but there is no guarantee that that will be done tomorrow. So, again, as Mike said, there may be no warning system for those of you outdoors in the Henderson, Kentucky area, which means that you need to have a way to get warnings, whether that be on your phone, whether that be from a family member or a friend. Again, if you have the opportunity here, warn your neighbors, warn you, especially the older folks. If again, there's actually, and I can post it on my page a little bit later, but the National Weather Service has a link to actually do a printable paper to plan out your weather preparedness plan. So if there's for your kids, maybe if they're going to be home while you're at work, or if you have someone that's maybe hard of hearing, they have that plan written down for them. They get a warning, they know what to do. These are good options to have there. And as Mike said, that the best way to stay safe is to have a plan, be prepared, and again, most of all, have a way to get warnings. But we're trying to keep everyone here as aware as possible of the timing. I'm real glad that you brought this back up again, Mike, because just want to go over the timing one more time, and again, want to go over the areas really going to be impacted here. So where you see those lines moving in there, again, Evansville, Vincennes, Mount Vernon, Owensboro, Madisonville, Paducah, Hopkinsville, Mayfield. These are all places that are going to be impacted by these storms tomorrow. So make sure that you have a plan. If you see your city name listed on this graphic right now, then make sure that you already have a plan in place. I actually posted a poll earlier asking if you had a plan ready. If you did not, please start getting one ready tonight. So this way, by tomorrow morning, you know exactly what you're doing before those storms arrive. And if the sun does come out, you say, well, it's time to start probably activating that plan now since we're seeing some sunshine. They did say that that wasn't a good thing, and you'll feel confident and you'll feel safe because, again, Mike mentioned it yesterday. If you're caught in the chaos and you don't have a plan and you're fearful and you're scared and that adrenaline gets going, you're not thinking as clearly, right? Whereas if you have a plan and during the chaos you're able to remain calm, you feel confident in what you're able to do, you're more likely to keep yourself and others safe, and may even be able to help others that are maybe freaking out in that situation as well. Mike. Oh, I think
There
we
we go.
lost.
The mute. Yeah,
Oh,
I
there
got
we
you. The mute.
go.
Yeah, no problem. That doggone mute switch took us took a second for it to register. But yeah, so hey, everyone, there's your timing right there. I think we've done our best, hopefully, to kind of set the table and let you all see what we are expecting for tomorrow. Ohio Valley Weather Watch, we're going to go into basically our severe weather kind of alert mode starting at midnight tonight, and we'll be watching the data as it comes in, and we'll be tracking and so forth. And we'll definitely be watching the radar, and you can rest assured that when this severe weather starts to pop, we will be all over it tomorrow. So I think, Austin, unless you got something else, I think this is a pretty good place to kind of land this plane for the evening here.
Yeah, especially for tonight, I do want to touch on real quick. I know we'll leave this graphic up, but again, this is your plan for tomorrow. But please remember that the middle of next week, starting right now, it's looking like Wednesday. Timing still up in the air, but some of the model data is actually looking pretty concerning for Saturday. The National Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center already has our area at a 30% risk 5 days out. So definitely keeping an eye on that here at Ohio Valley Weather Watch. We're going to make sure to keep you updated with that. Thank you, Mike. Yep, pulling that up right now. So again, this is something that we want to keep an eye on for your Wednesday. So if you have a plan ready for tomorrow, remember to keep that plan handy for the middle of the week as well. Again, not sure on the timing if that's going to be a morning, afternoon, or nocturnal event. We're going to keep an eye on that and make sure that we can update you with that as soon as possible.
Yep, that 30% bullseye right there. So yep, more to come this week, but you know what? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Let's go ahead and get through this
That's right.
severe event that's coming up for us here tomorrow and then into Monday morning. Wednesday will take care of itself just fine until it gets here. So I think that is going to do it for us here this evening on this live stream. We thank you so much for watching here and tuning us in. So for managing forecaster Tony Merriweather, for meteorologist Austin Stantz, and all of us here at Ohio Valley Weather Watch, thanks for tuning in and so long for now.
Have a good night.